The ocean is calm, sky empty. Nothing unusual. Then, without warning, something appears on radar, moving in ways nothing built by human hands should move. And within minutes, 2 Navy fighter pilots find themselves face to face with an object they can't explain. Something small, white, smooth, shaped like a Tic Tac. For years, the encounter lived in classified files, but today it's one of the most credible UFO sightings ever recorded. This is the story of the Tic Tac, a story that begins far from any coastline, in the hidden world of America's carrier strike groups. It's November 2004. The USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, the most powerful naval force on Earth, is preparing for deployment. Everything is routine. The pilots know the skies, the radars know the threats, nothing surprises them. But that's about to change. South of San Diego, the strike group begins picking up strange radar contacts. At first, controllers think it's a glitch. The tracks appear at 80,000 feet, then drop to sea level in less than a second. No aircraft, American, Russian, or anything else, can do that. Radar techs reboot systems. They recalibrate. The contacts come back. Dozens of them, flying in formations, splitting apart, recombining. Something is out there, and it's watching the Nimitz. Kevin Day, Senior Chief Operations Specialist, is the first to understand something is wrong. He's spent thousands of hours reading radar signatures. He knows missiles, aircraft, weather anomalies. This isn't any of those. The objects hover at 28,000 feet, then suddenly drop toward the ocean. No sonic boom, no heat signature, no breakup. Day reports it up the chain. But unless a pilot can visually confirm it, nothing becomes official. So the command decides it's time to take a look. 4 pilots are sent. 2 FA-18. Among them, Commander David Fravor. He'll never forget what he's about to see. Fravor arrives over the coordinates. The sea below looks disturbed. White water, frothing, like something massive is just beneath the surface. And above that turbulence, something small hovers, white, smooth, no wings, no exhaust, no sound, shaped exactly like a Tic Tac. Fravor descends for a closer look. The object reacts instantly, as if it knows he's coming. It begins to mirror his movement. Every turn he makes, the Tic Tac makes faster. Fravor banks left. The Tic Tac zips left. He drops altitude. It drops with impossible precision, not delayed, not struggling, like it's reading his mind. Fravor tries to cut across its path, and that's when it happens. The object shoots upward, accelerating from a standstill to out of sight in less than a second. Gone. Fravor can barely believe it. Then, moments later, the radar room calls, "Sir, it's already at your cap point." 50 miles away. Waiting for him. Nothing on Earth moves that fast. Another flight crew, launched after Fravor, manages to catch the Tic Tac on their infrared camera system, FLIR. The footage becomes infamous. A small white oval, no propulsion, no wings. Locking the camera proves difficult. The object darts, rotates, slides sideways. The pilot's voices crackle over the audio. "What the hell is that thing?" "It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them." They weren't exaggerating. Multiple radar systems, airborne and ship-based, were tracking many objects, not one. The Tic Tac wasn't alone. Back aboard the Nimitz, Fravor and the others gather for the debrief. They expect shock, maybe concern. They find awkward jokes, nervous laughter. No one wants to touch the subject. Technicians quietly pull radar tapes. Intel officers enter and begin collecting data. Then the pilots are told not to discuss it outside official channels. Whatever they saw, higher authorities want it contained. But this command secrecy doesn't last. Years later, the tapes and the story will break into the world. And everything changes. For years, the FLIR video sat inside Pentagon servers, classified, restricted, buried under layers of access. A piece of evidence seen only by a handful of officials. Then one day in 2007, it slipped out. The leak didn't explode across headlines. It trickled quietly onto small UFO forums, uploaded by someone who clearly knew what they had, but didn't want their name attached. At first, skeptics mocked it. The video was too clean, too strange, too perfect. But the pilots who had been there, they recognized it instantly. The Tic Tac was no longer just a story told in bars or whispered in training rooms. It was out, and the Pentagon couldn't hide it anymore. In 2017, something rare happened. The walls around the subject of UFOs, renamed UAPs to sound less ridiculous, began to crack. A New York Times article revealed a program the Pentagon had quietly funded for years, ITIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Its mission? Track unknown aerial objects, study their behavior, determine if they could threaten national security, and buried inside its files. The Tic Tac case? The program's former director, Luis Elizondo, later said, "This technology is beyond anything we know." The Tic Tac wasn't a rumor. It was officially investigated by the US government, and the conclusions weren't comforting. Commander Fravor kept quiet for nearly a decade, not because he was afraid. He just knew how these stories land. Pilots are trained to report what they see, not speculate, not embellish. But in 2017, Fravor finally spoke publicly. His description was simple, direct, and unnerving. No wings, no windows, no exhaust, no flight surfaces of any kind. And yet it moved with intelligence, anticipating his maneuvers, reacting with impossible speed. Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, the wingman who witnessed it, described the Tic Tac as outperforming our best aircraft by a factor of 10. These weren't conspiracy theorists. They were career military officers with everything to lose and nothing to gain. Their accounts matched. Their stories never wavered. Something was in the sky that day. And it wasn't ours. Let's break down what the Tic Tac did. Instant acceleration. The object jumped tens of thousands of feet in under a second. This should turn any physical craft, and any pilot, into dust. No heat signature. Infrared cameras saw nothing. No engine plume. No thermal output. Transmedium capability. The radar showed it diving into the ocean without slowing down, moving as easily through water as air. Zero inertia. It rotated and shifted directions like inertia didn't apply, as if mass wasn't a concern. These are not small violations. They break the rules that keep our aircraft in the air. To pull off these maneuvers, the craft would need either a propulsion method we have never seen, a material immune to gravity and inertia, or it wasn't following physics the way we understand them. Whatever the answer is, it's not comfortable. In April 2020, the world changed again. The Pentagon released the Tic Tac video officially. Not a leak, not a rumor, a formal acknowledgement. They didn't explain it. They didn't try to spin it. They said simply, the footage is real. The object is unidentified. We have no explanation. That's not something the Pentagon says lightly or ever. The story that started in a silent stretch of Pacific sky had become the first government-admitted encounter with a craft performing beyond human capability. And as the files opened, one thing became clear. The Tic Tac wasn't a one-time visitor. It was part of a pattern. The Nimitz incident was just one branch of a much larger story. Across the East Coast, West Coast, and around the world, pilots were reporting similar objects. Spheres inside cubes, metallic orbs, pyramids hovering over destroyers, objects dropping from 60,000 feet to sea level with no splash, different shapes, same impossible physics. The Tic Tac wasn't unique. It was part of a fleet of unknowns that had been entering US military airspace for years. And now the Pentagon had to face a question it had avoided for decades. If we didn't build these, who did? When the Tic Tac footage finally became public, the reaction inside intelligence circles wasn't shock. It was embarrassment, because the truth was brutal. Something had entered U.S. military airspace, outmaneuvered the world's most advanced fighters, and left without a trace. And no one knew what it was. Behind closed doors, briefings were held with members of Congress. Some walked out pale. Others refused to talk about what they heard. One senior official put it simply, "If this isn't ours and we don't think it is, then we have a problem. Not an enemy, not an invasion, just a realization. We are not the most advanced thing in the sky." Physicists were brought in to study the Tic Tac's movements. They weren't told what it was, just how it moved, and the reaction was always the same. A long pause, a deep breath, a slow shake of the head. To match the Tic Tac, humanity would need energy output beyond nuclear reactors. Materials stronger than anything we've ever built. Inertial dampening that doesn't exist outside theory. A propulsion system that breaks every rule our textbooks stand on. One physicist said, "This is either decades ahead of us or centuries." Another added quietly, "Or it didn't come from here." That possibility had always lingered in shadows, but now it sat on the table, cold, heavy, impossible to ignore. As the investigations deepened, a pattern emerged. The unknown craft didn't attack. They didn't communicate. They didn't interfere with civilian flights unless they crossed paths by accident. They just watched, observed, studied, and they always stayed just far enough away. The U.S. Navy eventually created new protocols, telling pilots to report these objects without fear of ridicule. And suddenly, the reports poured in, from every coast, every fleet, every branch of aviation. The Tic Tac wasn't an isolated event. It was one chapter in a story stretching decades. Something out there was monitoring us, not hostile, not friendly, just present. One question kept resurfacing inside every classified meeting. Why the sudden increase in sightings? Some pointed to improved radar. Others blamed global tensions. More eyes, more surveillance. But a few officials whispered another possibility. Maybe these objects were always here. We just weren't advanced enough to notice. Or worse, maybe something changed. Maybe they're preparing for something we don't understand. A chilling idea. Not because it suggests danger, but because it suggests purpose. These craft didn't behave like weapons. They behaved like instruments, sensors, probes, and probes always belong to something bigger. The truth is, we don't know what's happening behind classified doors. But we know this much. The Tic Tac encounter triggered a new wave of funding, new research labs, new programs designed not to explain what happened, but to catch up. The Pentagon is quietly studying exotic materials, reverse engineering propulsion concepts, exploring gravity-based flight, all because a white, featureless object the size of a Tic Tac made our best jets look slow and clumsy. The future of aerospace didn't arrive on a lab bench. It appeared off the coast of San Diego and vanished into the horizon like it was nothing. Years later, every pilot involved in that encounter says the same thing. It changed them, not because it scared them, but because it forced them to confront something pilots rarely admit, that the sky they thought they understood still holds secrets. Fravor said he wishes he could go back, take another run at the thing, see if it would respond, follow it. Dietrich said the quiet after the encounter felt heavier than the encounter itself, as if the world had shifted but no one else knew. They didn't just see an object, they witnessed a boundary being crossed. The moment humanity realized the sky is not ours, we don't know what the Tic Tac was. We don't know where it came from, what controlled it, or why it was there. But here's the part that keeps experts awake at night. Whatever it wasn't trying. That performance, the speed, the control, the physics-breaking maneuvers, it wasn't straining. It wasn't pushing its limits. It was effortless, like a creature swimming in its own environment while we're still learning how to stand upright. Maybe one day we'll understand it. Maybe we won't. But on that afternoon in 2004, Over a stretch of silent Pacific water, a small white object appeared and casually rewrote the laws of flight. The Tic Tac left no wreckage, no message, no warning, just a single truth. We are not alone in the sky, and we never were. The Tic Tac incident, case still open.